Welcome. In this video, I'm going to go through my building of the Siboor Voron V0 kit. It's just a few little snippets and updates along the way of my progress. Progress so far. I've got the first part of the frame assembled. So far it's going pretty well. Getting the hang of the way the Voron manual is laid out, as everyone mentions in all the other videos. It's not too bad as long as you read it thoroughly and try to understand what they are talking about before you go forwards. Yeah, it's all going pretty well so far. Starting to get through some of the parts. Got a bit of a bigger bin for them bolts to make life easier, and the nuts are just falling out everywhere. A couple of little tips that I might give so far. This is out of another little toolkit, but this is to magnetize the screwdrivers and bits, and I've used that on this one for the small the M2 bolts in here. They're very fiddly to pick up before, but now that I've magnetized it, it makes life a lot easier instead of trying to get fat fingers in there and get one little M2 bolt out. The little bar that they give you that slots inside, that slots down in behind there to make life a lot easier. You don't have to try to line up the nuts and whatever to get that to work. So that's very handy. Another little thing is putting the nuts in the rail here. I found it a lot easier to use some tweezers. These are some, I believe these are iFixit ones. But any sort of tweezers would work. And just picking up the nut from the inside, and then you just sort of slot it in that way. I found this to be much easier than I don't know, just anything else I was sort of trying to use the Allen key or anything like that. But doing that seems to work. I've also found that with the extrusion, there's one face has a narrower opening than the other. So hopefully I don't get caught out soon. I have rotated a couple because I did find that the M3 bolts, M3 bolts don't actually fit in some of the rail. So that one there, it doesn't actually fit in very well. But that one there, it does, and it slides nicely. So I'll try to show that a bit better. So it fits in there and it slides not too bad. So the thing that'll catch you out is it will screw in, and like it will thread itself in, but you won't be able to slide it if you need to adjust anything. So that's just something to be mindful of, having not built one before and not looking through the whole book. Hoping that doesn't catch me out later on, but if it does, I'll deal with it then. Made a bit more progress with it. Got the first part of the frame together. Up to page 68 of 250 in the manual. It's going together pretty good actually. I'm very happy with it. All the printed parts seem good so far. Got the upgraded bed support on there. I had to start doing some of the heat inserts. There's some heat inserts there, and this little bracket down here. There's 3 in that. So that screw there that you can see, and the 2 screws there, all go into the heat inserts, which is these little guys, which you obviously just heat up and they melt in. Just using a soldering iron to push them in. Everything seems to move okay. These rails are not the best. I've gone through, I've tried to keep the better ones for up here where the everything's moving a bit quicker. The Z doesn't move very fast, so I chose the chunkier ones for there. But I have dismantled the rails and cleaned them out and re-greased them and tried to get them to run as well as they can, but it's not perfect. But for the things they are cheapies, it's going to do the job, I'm pretty sure. I might upgrade them later on, but I've definitely save the better ones for up here, and it's a different one for going across. And yeah, Here we have most of the frame and everything put together. According to the instructions, I'm up to putting the belts in, so that'll be exciting. Still very happy with the way it's going together. As long as you follow the instructions and actually pay attention to every step and don't browse over everything, it does tell you more or less what you need to do once you get the hang of it. Getting there now with it. Got some belts and stuff on. The heat bed's on. Got some wiring installed for the heat bed, ready for when we get underneath it. Currently working on the mini Stealthburner. Just thought I'd show a few things with this that I've come across so far. Everything's going together really well. Everything's fitting really good. Something I didn't see anywhere in the instructions, whether I just missed it or not. When you're putting these fans in, you've actually got to take off the little front shroud of the fan so they fit in there nicely. But before you do that, pay attention to that little arrow, because that's the direction the fan needs to be blowing down. So it's a little bit counterintuitive in some ways, but if you get it wrong, that won't line up with the hole very well. It'll be all offset and not look good. It's all going pretty well. Just thought I'd also show that I've got the Phaetus drag and hot end. I'm struggling to find the right instructions for this part of the installation regarding this exact hot end. So what I have come across so far is this part gets removed. There's 2 screws up underneath that hold that in. There's 2 screw holes up under the top there. In the packet that this comes in, there's 4 screws which you need to then mount to this part. So these are the 4 screws. I'm not exactly sure what they are, but the head does just fit down in the hole in there. Some of the other ones in the kit aren't quite the right size. These are the 2 that got removed that will held this part on. I don't believe I'll need that anymore, but I'm still working through it, so we'll get there. And from what I can gather, the side that's got the label is the side that the bulk of the heatsink, the hot end block, is protruding from. If there's any changes to that, I'll definitely let you know. I've got some more of this part put together. So I've got the hot end and whatever installed in here. So it has gone together the way I previously mentioned. So when it's installed, the logo for the hot end is towards the back for the type of bracket that you printed. Now I've got the bulk of the unit hanging out the back, which should be fine. Having it out the front will probably interfere a lot with the part cooling if you had that towards the front. And it's very tight for the wires to get through there. So I'm pretty confident this is the way it goes. So from the front, without the sock on there, you can read the logo. And obviously this will cover that anyway. But yeah, got the power supply in and the main board in. Just come across the first real sort of, not so much issue, but a thing that's not quite clearly indicated that I've seen, is when putting in this plastic panel here, which is where this mainboard mounts, the Siboor Kit has the holes, I'll show it this way, it already has the holes in for mounting the mainboard, and this one corner's offset, which stops it from being easily reversible. Now, if you look on the instructions here, it doesn't actually show those holes because they're obviously for the Fly Gemini board. So I've installed it trying to use the slotted holes the way they've shown here. But that doesn't quite seem to be right. So what I'm going to do, so if you look on this diagram, which is in the Siboor supplementary instructions, it sort of shows, It doesn't really show much, but I'm assuming that box there should be the heat sinks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this panel out and flip it so I can install this board around the other way. I have to flip the whole panel that way. Because the other issue that I've found is the wire they give you for the extruder motor, which plugs into here, doesn't reach the umbilical breakout board. So by flipping that around, that'll do a few things. It'll make it so that can reach, and also these wires won't have to cross over or under the board to get to here. I can neatly bunch them up and they'll connect straight in at the top. Power wires doesn't make much difference. They're pretty much, the wire's long enough for where it is, but that's alright. This fan wire will hopefully still reach to about here somewhere. Might not actually, so might have to do something with that. Probably move that over a bit. Yeah, that's not gonna... That might be the only casualty of doing this. That one's plenty long enough. Everything else is more than long enough to reach everywhere it needs to. So I'll make that change and move forwards and let you know how I go later on. And I'm pretty sure the wiring is done now. I still want to come back in later on and fix up the wiring from all this parts to the umbilical board. So everything from here wires into this board behind here. Then it's a single plug from this board which goes down to this board. So if you do want to remove your entire tool head, you can just undo that cord. So not quite CAN bus, that's a different system again, but it does make everything a bit neater and easier. I'm quite confident it should work pretty well. Just got it laying down now, so this is the bottom. Tried to get all the wiring as neat as possible and cable tied wherever I can. Double check before you put your front skirts on that you do have your input power from your mains selected. Here I've got mine set to 230 volts. And all the wires going around the back. Once again, got everything cable tied with these little sticky cable tie things. So these little stick-on cable tie mounts. Yeah, you get them online, pretty cheap. So I'll try to use them in a few locations to keep everything tidy. The USB that comes with it is actually the Wi-Fi dongle. This board doesn't have inbuilt Wi-Fi, which is fine. This USB here goes down to the screen. This bunch of wires here is the only one that I've had to run up with the umbilical, because this goes to the ADXL sensor for your input shaping and tuning. You probably don't need to hardwire it in there if you're only going to do the tuning once and leave it, but I'm just going to leave it on there. That's about it. This is a board here for the umbilical. So everything's pretty straightforward, just follow the instructions. Having the board turned around this way has definitely made it easier. I haven't had to do any rewiring or anything at this end. The only wiring I've had to do was up from the tool head to the umbilical board, just to shorten the wires, because the wires are made to reach all the way through the system back down to the main board. But so far everything's gone together really well. No complaints about the printed parts, just about everything's fit. The only thing that I've had that hasn't quite fit properly was this little fan mount here. There's two parts to it and it sort of clamps onto the rail there. The tabs that slot into the rail weren't quite Well, they were too fat, so I had to sand them down a bit and get them to slide in. Minimal effort, but that soon worked. Now I've got power. Make sure all these are done up nice and tight. Follow the wiring diagram. And yeah, all the belt tensions are done. So I'll probably power it up now, just about, and start doing some movements on it. Make sure everything's right before I put the panels on. So I don't really want to have to undo everything just because I've got a wire on back to front. But yeah. Certainly looks more like a printer now than it did before. Finally have some printing happening here. This is all stock settings, stock profile in Super Slicer. So I haven't changed anything. I still need I do a lot more tuning. All I've done is a PID tune on the bed and hot end, which I'll redo once I've got everything enclosed and the little silicone sock and everything on there. I just wanted to make sure it's going to work before I put all the covers on. Very first print actually didn't stick, so I wiped down the bed with some isopropyl alcohol and gave it a good clean and just resumed, and so far so good. A little bit stringy on the first layer where it hadn't quite primed itself properly, but yeah, very happy with it. It's going well. I did play in the settings. I think I've turned off Stealth Chop. I set it to 0, so I need to do a bit more investigating on that. So that could be part of why it sounds like it does. I am going to play with that a bit, so I would like it to be a bit quieter than that. But once it's enclosed, if that helps, I might leave it. But yeah, that's it. It works. Here it is, all completed. All the panels on, and the top lid. Only just turned it on, so it's not warm at the minute, but I still haven't got the screen working yet. I'm gonna potentially play around with that. I don't see myself using it much. I've got to control most of it from the computer. So happy to say that there was nothing missing from the kit. Everything was there. Even got a heap of spares, a spare wiring, bolts and stuff. I did end up finding the little tool they use to align the rails. So these were in the box with all the, it was next to all these bits, tucked down in one of the little slots. They also give you that one, which I'm pretty sure is for aligning your Z rails. I didn't use it, so it doesn't fit, but they're parallel anyway. So I'm pretty sure it's for going up in there to get them lined up and parallel. I survived without it, but could have been handy. Yeah, it still works. Well, it's working. Very, very happy with it. Obviously got the blue frame, all the red parts and that. Everything, all the printed stuff fit well. Everything's worked really nicely. I'm just going to go through the process now of tuning it. I'm just going to clear off a spot next to the computer for that, so I don't have to keep going back and forwards. Plan on tuning it quite thoroughly. This will be used for printing orders for customers and stuff, so I do want it to be as reliable as possible. And yeah, not sure what else to say about it other than They give you everything you need. Yeah, they've given everything you need. I'm going to do the carbon filter as well, partially to filter the air, but also just to circulate the air a bit more to help get the whole area warmed up. So I do plan on doing quite a bit of ABS and ASA with it. I might change the bed eventually to something else. So this one is textured on both sides, if anyone was curious about that. Giving that a good clean with some isopropyl alcohol before the first print certainly helps. Mine didn't stick at all for the first one, but I've done a couple little prints since then and they've been fine. Just obviously avoid touching the bed as best you can. All the rails and that are greased up. There's a bit of extra grease on there. I don't think that's going to hurt much. Yeah, the kit had everything I need. The only other tools that I ended up using were the 1.3mm Allen key, which I mentioned earlier. Flathead screwdriver. The tweezers came in very handy for putting the nuts in the rails and also for feeding the belt through into a couple spots, and getting the cable up through here was probably the trickiest part of the whole thing, really, which wasn't even that tricky. Just remember there is an extra lot of wires for that light. I still need to clean up my wiring on the tool head. I want to make sure everything's working before I cut everything to size, and then I can, if something doesn't work, I at least know it was working beforehand. So a little bit of clarification there. Yeah, all these parts are printed on a textured build plate. I don't know if you can see that. So they've all got a nice finish on them. The first layers on the prints have come up really well. Yeah, that's about it. So after I do some mods, I've also got to print parts for a 2.4. This is one of the boxes for the LDO kit. I got the blue frame again, hopefully. I plan on doing a similar sort of video for putting that together. Just goes to show the size difference there. Next, I just got to get it printing, calibrate it, and get a serial number for it. So I'm pretty excited to do that. Alright, it's a couple of weeks later now. Things were going well. I got myself the serial number. Started printing off a few little things as Christmas gifts. And then I had an issue where after a print, went to do the next homing sequence, and there was a stepper motor error coming up. I can't think of exactly what it was at the minute, but basically it turned out that the drivers had died. So in the process of testing that, I swapped a few drivers around and something wasn't right, and ended up all 4 drivers died. So managed to turn it off, let everything cool down, put in 4 other drivers that I had laying around, so 4 other big Tree Tech drivers, and it started printing again. Not a problem. Kept doing some prints. After a few more prints, same thing happened again. Luckily I had another set of drivers, because I had 8 drivers ready for my 2.4 build. Yeah, put those in, powered it back on, tried to do the thing, and the clipper screen was, or the I'm using the fluid home screen, had a MCU error. So I got in touch with Siboor about that. They put me onto their Discord. Went through a few steps, a bit of diagnosis, tried a few things, tried putting different jumpers on, tried everything, and couldn't get the MCU to show up doing the ls USB command. So I could still log in and still see everything, but the MCU wasn't showing up. So they've diagnosed that something in here is burnt out. And I also noticed that this was getting extremely hot. Like you could not touch it. So obviously there's a short or something going wrong in there. Which also caused a few other components to slightly warm up. But they weren't too concerning. Never really checked them when it was operating normally, so that could be normal. It's all unplugged now because that was part of the diagnosis. Unplug everything, see what could be causing it. However, they will be sending me a replacement board, hopefully with drivers. So we'll see how that goes. The other issue that I was having was trying to get the screen to work. So I actually worked on this problem first. I got onto the Siboor Discord. I had a few people there helping me out. That was really helpful. Trying to do all the different diagnosis things, the jumpers on the back. You can probably see the issue now. It was on the printer at the time, so I didn't notice until I took the board off and compared it to some photos online, and there is something missing there, right where the red arrow is pointing. They've left the whole chip off, so that was never going to work. So they will be sending me a replacement screen as well. So everything else seems fine on the printer. The motors are still working, touch wood. It's just been, well, this is a manufacturer error. They just simply forgot to put that on. Something's happened to this to cause it to either short out or just burn out in some way or another. So we'll see what the outcome is for that. As for the rest of it, it was printing rather nicely. Still tweaking some of the filament settings and getting everything tuned in. But I have, after this little fiasco, I have decided, and because they're on sale, I've bought the Big Tree Tech Manta board for it. So that's on its way hopefully soon. So until that shows up, no more printing. When I first had the driver error, I did order some new drivers from the Mellow AliExpress page, which are these ones. So I got a set of 5. So I thought I might just show you the difference that I'm aware of. So that's the one from the Mellow site. And this one, this is the one that came with it. So notice that it doesn't have the fly written on it. So I'm assuming they might be even a cheaper one again. And this here is Big Tree Tech version 1.3. So they're all pretty similar. Obviously the pins on this one are all long. This one's got all short pins. This one's got 3 long pins. The other difference is I've had to remove, because these are the ones that I replaced when these ones died. So these were the new ones that went in. I had to remove these 2 pins on the Z and extruder motor drive. So I'm pretty sure that's got something to do with sensorless homing, because that was, if I tried to plug it in with those, that was the error that came up. But having a look at the website, this fly one has a little switch down here, which from what I could gather, switching that on or off somehow affected these two pins. So you could turn it off, I believe, to put into the position that didn't have the pins originally. Other than that, there's no real difference. When I get around to using them, I might make another little short video. If that doesn't do what I want it to do, you've got to unsolder or trim these pins off. Otherwise it throws an error. But once you chop them off, everything seems to work again. So yeah, that's what we're up to. Not doing much at the moment. I was really hoping to get my 2.4 parts printed out while I was home over the Christmas break. But unfortunately that project's on hold for now. I've got plenty of other stuff to get along with. And yeah, I think that'll be it for this video. I might do an update when I've got the Manta board in and show you any things that I've changed or tweaked putting that in. Thank you very much for making it to the end. I hope this was somewhat informative and you got something out of it. Please do like the video if you did like it, and subscribe. I will try to do some more 3D printing content, as well as my other videos for my products. And thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.